Hey, thanks for joining me. We're going to get started here in just a split second. One interesting thing I discovered today, I love the word discovered, right? But I was doing some research in preparation of some other activity with NIWC Atlantic, which is part of the Navy's NAVWAR or Naval Information Warfare Systems Command. And it was interesting to see how they plotted out where NAVWAR is. And they're all the way out, obviously, throughout CONUS, but also in Guam and Japan. And so understanding this, it's interesting as I work with customers to plan how they're going to support them and whether they would support folks out there. But I'm really curious because we have people who join us in lives who are in Guam. And so I'm really curious on whether people in Guam track on NAVWAR being out there. I can't imagine they have an office or a presence, but it's interesting. And I don't know if you do this when you're doing research, it's just really getting an understanding of their geographical footprint, and you'll be able to get a better understanding of where you might be able to support your target agency. So let me just turn I'm not going to really be able to see chat, but I kind of see it. I love the fact that we got people here today on Labor Day on the weekend. Today's Monday, a holiday here in the US, and I'm excited about that. My wife is off sailing, so I'm able to focus here a little bit more on some of this work until I get my turn to get out sailing. But let's get started. Welcome to my daily federal sales training, where I discuss process and procedures for you to achieve success in the federal market. I don't know if you know who I am, but my name is Neil McDonald. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. I spent 20 years as a small business owner in the federal market. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. And a process is point A to point Z. And when you follow a process, you're going to have predictable results. And that's what I want for you, is predictable results. Today, we're going to remind ourselves there is no such thing as a shortcut to government contracting, right? I'll talk about the three worst myths told to small businesses when we get started and how we can change our thinking on those. And then I'm going to share the guaranteed way to achieve success, right? It's not a fancy way, it's just a guaranteed way. So before we get started too far into the myths, I wanted to just share two different stories. One is crazy, and one, it's a little bit crazy from a business perspective, but you might be able to relate to it as it relates to shortcuts, right? So I remember when I have twin boys, and I remember when my wife got pregnant, we were both pretty excited for them to come. And I offered up a suggestion on how we might be able to be more efficient and how we could speed the process along by just finding 8 others to help with that 9-month pregnancy window. And we could have 9 people, shrink it down to 1 month, and we could be done just as fast. A shortcut to pregnancy. And the reality is I'm an idiot, right? That's just a stupid idea. But also I'm deceiving myself that anything so important as my kids could be shortcutted, right? There is no shortcut to blessings like that. And I would argue there's no shortcut to blessings like the businesses that we have and that we work for. So, crazy story. Let me give you a real story that happens with business owners sometimes in something similar. And I've heard this story from a guy named Alex Hormozi, who's out there on the internet and does a lot of great advice for people, especially in the gym world. But anyways, he talks about how fitness experts would spend years training people and then want to go off and start their own business. And when they do, they begin to look for shortcuts. They would turn to him and say, hey, how can I get this going faster? How can I, go to a $5 million business in the first year? It's like, so you want a shortcut to build a $5 million business that takes time. And what he would do is remind them that if they had a client come in who wanted to lose weight, but continued eating cookies, there is no shortcut to losing weight, right? Fundamentally, we just need to eat the right things and do enough exercise, basically. And if I'm still eating cookies, then how's Alex ever going to be able to help me? But these same people who would tell their clients that there is no shortcut to fitness want a shortcut to business. And that's what I want you to keep in mind here. There is no shortcut to anything of value. In particular, in government contracting, there is no shortcut to success. It does take years to build a business that is a business with a strong foundation that can continue to grow year over year. And when we follow process, I believe that helps us have that foundation. That eliminates the idea of a shortcut, and it gives us what I call the happy path. Okay, so there's 3 myths in federal government contracting, in my opinion, that just sit at the top that we really need to not have. The first one is the trillions of dollars myth. The second one are the small business tag myth. And the last one I want to talk about is the just bid myth. So trillions of dollars in the federal government, have small business tags and win, and just bid and win, right? So all of that is just talking about how you can win fast and in a shortcut. So let's talk about those myths one at a time. The first myth that is out there and told to small businesses, and I think it's the one that's told the most often to hook people into, oh, you should start a government contracting company, is the federal market is a multi-trillion-dollar industry that you can tap into and get your piece of the pie. If you just get 1% of the federal market's trillions of dollars spend, you'll be rich. That's the myth. The fact is the federal government does spend trillions of dollars, but that's not how big the federal market is. The amount you have access to is what I call the federal market, right? What the government spends is not the market for us. The market is actually closer to $650 billion. So less than 1 trillion, even though the government spends like currently 5, 6, 7 trillion now. But it's closer to $650 billion is the federal government market for us, right? But for small businesses, it's actually 75% smaller because larges come in and take a big portion of that. And I'll talk about that in a second. And it's not a bad thing, right? We can talk about that later. But the fact is the market is much smaller than the government spend. And so the reality of the situation, and for these three myths, I want to talk about the myth, the fact, and the reality. The reality is, yes, the federal government is an awesome market. I encourage everybody to get in and stay out of everywhere else. You can build a $1 million business. You can build a $10 million business. You can definitely build a $100 million business in the federal government market. But don't get caught up in the hype of 1% of trillions of dollars. No, come in and build a business $1 at a time, and you'll achieve the goals you're looking for. Another small business myth that is told to us when we get started in government contracting is this myth of the small business tag. If you get your small business tags, the government will be throwing business at you, contract after contract. And if that tag's an 8A tag or an 8A certification, well, that's the golden ticket. You're never going to go broke. There'll just be so much business. In fact, they do $4 million set aside, and they'll just be dumping that on you. Have you heard that myth? The fact is the federal government does set aside contracts for women-owned or veteran-owned small businesses. They do it for HubZone certified businesses as well as 8A or businesses that are in the 8A program, right? So those 4 programs, they do set asides. But another fact is that they require you to have the skills and the past performance necessary before winning a prime contract. The reality is the federal buyers won't buy from you because you're a veteran. They don't care that you're a veteran, minority, or woman-owned business. Of course, they will say, thank you for your service. But the agencies are not looking to sell something or buy something from a veteran-owned business. They're looking to buy from somebody who has the quals, the skills, and the experience to solve the mission need. That's all they care about, is making sure they fill the mission need. If they've got soldiers downfield and they have a need down there, do you think they're going to try to find, well, let's just sell it to a woman-owned business? No, they're taking this need over and saying, let's find a business that has the skills around this and can deliver with minimal or no risk to the government. So another risk or another thing, the reality you need to pay attention to is that even if you are a woman-owned business or an 8A business or a HubZone business, there's competition. Shoot, there's 5,000 plus 8A businesses alone. So even if they did set it aside, and even if it was a golden ticket, and even if they throw a $4 million set aside out there, right, it's still going to go to 5,000 8As who have to compete. And so the way the government looks at those 8A firms is to find the ones that have the right skills to fit the need or the requirement and who have the past performance to show that and demonstrate that they can serve that need and fill it. Okay, so let's hit the third one. So the last one myth I want to share with you that you may have heard is just bid. If you just bid, you'll start winning, right? And this has just been something I've heard for 20 years plus, right? We in fact, a lot of us sometimes don't even hear it. We just tell ourselves that myth. We look into SAM when we say, oh, the federal government's buying so much, I just need to bid and start winning. Or other people will tell us the federal government's buying so much. Just start bidding, you'll win. And the reality is it doesn't happen like that. And I'll tell you about that in a second, but I want to share a story. When I was growing up in San Francisco, we had a big lake, Lake Merced, and my twin brother and I used to go down there fishing. And we'd stand on a pier, and over here was a big boat launch type area. And it was great fishing. We'd sit out there for hours and hours. But sometimes we would get lucky, and we were out there when they stocked the pond. And if you don't know what this is, they back up these huge dump trucks full of fish, live fish, and just stock the pond with live fish so people could fish. And at that point, we all learned all we have to do is throw our line in the water, and we'll be reeling in fish, because those fish are biting anything that's in the water, including each other. But they would bite the hooks. You'd reel it in, you throw your hook back out there. You didn't need bait. And that's what I think sometimes people think the government is like. If they look into some of these bid tools or SAM.com or SAM.gov, and there's all these opportunities. Well, all I have to do is throw my line in and hook an opportunity and reel it in, and it's a stocked pond. But that's not really the case. Yes, the government does buy a ton, and yes, if you bid 1,000 times, you might get lucky, right? That's the fact. But that's not a repeatable process for success. And so when you follow a repeatable process, you'll have predictable success. When you just throw your line into a pond and hope a fish just bites it, that's just, hope. And hope is not a strategy, as they say. So the reality is the buyer or the government only buys from those with a solid set of skills or core competencies, right, around the need, and you have proven experience delivering. That's fair. Even if it's a product, right, a bunch of bolts, and they want to buy bolts, they want to know you have the experience to deliver those, to get those bolts shipped, and then to deliver it. And you know how it's received on a dock, and you know how there's different people on the dock in the government buying world, and it has to get to somebody else. I supported the VA, and I helped them improve a system to deal with surgical equipment, because they would order equipment and it would come into the dock, but it would not end up in the OR where they needed it in those operating rooms. And there was all this confusion about, hey, we delivered it. No, you didn't. And it turns out if you deliver it to the doc, it's not the same as getting it to the ultimate need, which is the OR who ordered it, or the doctors. And so the government wants to know you have experience dealing with those kind of situations, in product there and construction or services, doesn't matter what it is. Of course, you can start bidding and you're going to find that you might win, but the likelihood is minimal than if you did proper capture activity. And capture is understanding the need and developing a solution around that need and being able to demonstrate why that solution is the best idea. That only comes from developing relationships and having conversation where you truly understand the need, and you can understand why the solution's the best fit. It's not just about putting your solution into a proposal, but it's about floating your solution out to the buyer during the capture phase to go, hey, we're going to do this, and get their thoughts about, no, we tried that. It's never going to work here because of this. Oh, great. I'm not going to do that solution then, right? So capture is about having those kind of conversations, and you're much more likely to win when you do proper capture activities than when you just bid blindly. Okay, so those are the three myths. I hope they resonated with you or made sense. The $1 trillion myth, the small business tag myth, and the just bid myth. The thing to keep in mind is, yes, the government does have money. Yes, there are set-asides. And yes, you can bid and win, but your likelihood will go up much higher if you actually try to pay attention to where you fit into that sweet spot and how your small business tag or your bidding activity will fit into your winning process. Okay, so I want to go into talking about a guaranteed process for success. This is something I've shared before, and it's something I believe very strongly that if you follow this process, you will achieve success. One of the things, by the way, that I hear all the time from people who are very successful, it's not about doing big things. It's about doing the little things right. I've heard this from so many different people who have written books or done training, et cetera. And for hundreds of years, they've been talking about this. It's not about doing something big. It's about doing a bunch of the little things right. And sometimes that's the hardest thing for us, but that's process. An example is picking up the phone, right? If you pick up the phone and call somebody, sometimes we like it, sometimes we don't. but it's an activity that if you turn it into a habit, it's part of the process that will lead to success. And so let's talk about that process. And I want to, I'm trying to decide whether I share my graphic, and I think I'll just talk to it actually, because I'd rather you just hear it. And then I can show it to you later. Many of you might have seen this already that I put together, but it's the 7-step process for federal government success. If you want to have success in the federal government over and over and over again, you need to follow 7 steps, and it begins with visibility. In federal government contracting, there's 6 marketing assets which are the best ones and the start of everything we do in marketing. And we want those to look good so that we look good to buyers or teammates who come looking at us. I'm going to do a whole separate training and a lot of posting out there about this. But currently, the DoD has almost 200,000 buyers. And for many of them, their only way of connecting with us is not us being active, but them being active looking for us. And so if we are visible to the buyer, not only are the people we target going to see us and think we look good because of our marketing assets, but all of these other 100, 200,000 buyers that are out there potentially discover us because we've properly prepared ourselves to look visible. Those 6 marketing assets are your DSBS profile, your dynamic small business search profile, which is tied to SAM.gov. The second one is your capability statement. The third one is your LinkedIn profile. The fourth one is your capability brief. The fifth one is your website. And the sixth one is your LinkedIn company page. There's separate training on that. But when you do that, you will look good to the buyer and you will be findable. The second step of the 7-step process after visibility is properly targeting or finding the right people to call. You want to be able to identify your agency of choice, this command that's below that, even the program office, and then begin to find both industry and federal buyer points of contact or people that you want to pursue that would make sense for you to pursue, could lead to a sale. And so you want to build a list of 100 people, their names, numbers, and emails, so that when you move out of targeting and go to the third step, which is outreach, you are ready to start picking up the phone and calling people or shooting an email. You want to have meetings with buyers and teammates as you begin to vet them to see, first off, which ones will talk to you, and then which ones you want to sit there and develop a relationship with. That's the fourth stage. And it's the first stage of my circular process that is predictable, repeatable process steps that will lead to sales predictably and repeatably. And it is not rocket science. I've done this on purpose that it is not rocket science, right? Visibility, targeting, and outreach, VTO, is the start of any effort into business development into a new agency, for example, where you will begin to develop relationships with people. These people are federal buyers or they're industry teaming partners, people you could talk to and learn about that agency, identify opportunities, which is the fifth step in the process. When you go into the fifth step, it's about identifying and capturing opportunities that are slam dunk opportunities. Slam dunk opportunities mean these are opportunities you feel like the government knew exactly what you did and wrote a RFP specifically for your company. I used an example that if you made chairs out of recycled computers and the government wrote an RFP saying, hey, we're looking for chairs made out of recycled computers, that is a slam dunk opportunity. You need to do capture, et cetera. And there's going to be other companies that make chairs out of computers. You're not going to have no competition, but that opportunity is written for you. It's yours to lose. And when you have the right opportunities in your sales pipeline, you can move to the sixth step, which is writing winning proposals. What I mean by winning proposals is that they could be chosen by the government as a winner. So that's the difference is a losing proposal where the government looks and goes, this sucks, and they throw it away. Or they look at it and say, this is not compliant, too many pages, too few pages, whatever, right? Those are non-winning proposals. A winning proposal is one that the government could easily choose. And the only reason they didn't is because there's other people writing winning proposals and we don't win them all. Sometimes we win them, sometimes we don't, right? And so if you write winning proposals, you will have sales, which is the last step. You will be able to celebrate those wins from after writing winning proposals. And so that's really important to remember this 7-step process. And I'm going to reverse it in a second, but just reminding you, VTO, visibility, targeting, outreach. That's what you do if you're trying to get into a new agency or trying to get into an agency where you're stuck. Go back to the beginning and do VTO, visibility, targeting, outreach. These 3 steps will lead to relationships that will help you identify opportunities that you can write proposals on and start winning. It's a very straightforward process, right? On purpose, I'm trying to make it simple because it is simple. It's hard work, right? It takes a lot of work for us to identify people and find their names, numbers, and emails or something, or to write a winning proposal. That's hard work. Proposal managers are working really hard to do that. But we're all used to hard work, right? That's nothing new. But the process should not be hard. This is a happy path process. One last thing I want to tell you about it is if I reverse it from sales, you need to think of this from a numbers game, right? If you're not achieving the success yet that you want to achieve, then ask yourself questions about numbers as you go back. So if you're not winning the sales you want, ask yourself, are we writing enough proposals to be able to win? And I always say that 25% of the proposals you write at least should win. So if you're writing 4 and you're not winning, then maybe something's wrong with the proposals you're writing, right? Or if you're writing proposals and they're fantastic proposals, do you have enough slam dunk opportunities in your sales pipeline? And so slam dunk, I already said it's written, an RFP is written right for you. You know you could do it. You know you can win it. So that means, do you have enough in there? You need 2 or 3 times the number of proposals you write in your sales pipeline to make sure you've got the best ones in there that will lead to winning proposals. So am I writing enough proposals? Do I have enough opportunities in my pipeline? If I don't, it's not about going to GovWin or SAM and trying to download 100, right? That's not the right thing. It's about going to your target agency and to those relationships, those strategic relationships with your agency of choice. Am I having enough relationships? Do I have enough relationships with federal buyers, the contracting officers, small business specialists at the program office to learn about opportunities? Am I hearing about opportunities from people I have strategic relationships with who are in the industry, possible teammates, right? If I don't have enough relationships, then that might be the cause for why I don't have enough opportunities. And the same thing as you back up. If I don't have enough relationships, am I calling enough people? Am I doing enough outreach? 2 calls a day, 5 calls a day. If you really want to build relationships that lead to opportunities, then you need to pick up the phone and call more people. It's simple as that. But do you have a list of people to call? You shouldn't have to figure out every day, who am I going to call? So targeting is about, let me build a list of 100 people that I think are good relationship potentials. Let me build the list first and then start calling them. So I hope all that made sense as I reversed it. I kind of went one way and back the other way. But just in case you haven't seen this before, I do just want to share it so you see what it looks like, right? The 7-step process: visibility, targeting, outreach, lead to relationships, lead to opportunities, help you write proposals and win sales. And when you win sales, you get more relationships, which get more opportunities and more proposals going out the door, winning more sales. And before you know it, you're at a $10 trillion business a year, or maybe $1 million business a year, depending on how much effort you put into it, right? But you see the process. I hope you follow the process. Happy to send that process diagram to anybody who would like it, and you don't have it. It hasn't changed in a while. So if you've seen it before, it hasn't changed for you. So let me just go to my last slide. So last thing I just want you to remember is, don't get caught up in hype or myth. That's the point of today's training, right? Don't get caught up in the hype and the myth. The reality of building a business, or if you're a business developer working for a company or capture person or whatever, the idea to success is process. If you want to do anything over and over again, identify a process. I gave you the process that works for me. I'm not telling you to do it. I'm telling you I do it and it works. If it works for you, then I'd love for you to follow it and have the same type of success. And anytime you look at a process, it should not be confusing. I'm hoping every step of the process I laid out is clear to you. If it's not, feel free to message me and I'd be happy to talk to you about it. Hey, remember, government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. Part of the process is for us to go enjoy the rest of the day. I'll see you in the next training.